to experiment in music. A reading from a grimoire. Can you hear the Lord's Prayer? Can you hear the Lord's Prayer? It is somewhere high above the sky. As deeper you know, is farther than all can fly. Welcome to your moon, welcome to Mars, welcome to Venus, the planets and the stars. Doesn't really matter if you transport through time, you'll find secret passages of time reappear. Secret passages of time. Did you know? Make these instrumental sounds all alone. Does this microphone interrupt with the ability to see the streaming of the guitar playing? It experiment. What you gonna talk about today, Chris? Well, I got this book here. You see it? Can you see it? The Guitar Grimoire. It's purple. Can you tell it's purple? I mean, it's very purple in here. It looks a little bit blue over in the screen. It's very purple. We're we're going to start reading that. We're going to go through it in sections, and we're going to talk about what's happening in the book. So I've not read this whole thing all the way through. I got like 8 of them, 9 of them. I haven't read them all the way through in every aspect, and I want to go over details inside of them with you guys. Why not? Maybe you guys will bring further enlightenment when I get into this. So it's called Guitar Grimoire. This one is progressions in improvisation, which seems cool, but it could be intimidating and as well. So we're gonna read it. Let's read it. Let's read it and talk about it. And well, let's not totally get rid of this instrument. Let's just put it down like this for a second. Might want to be playing it or using it while reading this. I'm gonna move the music player I use out of the way. All right, I'm trying to clear everything out here so to get a little more organized. Here we go. This thing just wants to fall off. My seat is too high. Just a little bit. So I'll put it next to me. So let's start. Let's read it. Produced by Metatron and Inc. I know it looks really metal. That part does. For Carl Fisher. So this is one of the less produced books or something like that. So it's a little different. So we start off here. The building blocks of music, and there's going to be pictures. I'll show them. In order to understand progressions, one must understand the basics of harmony and theory. Music is sound. But for now, imagine that is a set of 12 equal blocks. 12 blocks. You guys can probably see that. I have to put this other thing on up here so I can see it as well. Change the size of things here and there. And that. Okay, 12 blocks, which looks like 12 squares. Just like 12 blocks. See that? 12 blocks. See the second figure? Look at that one. See how that's spaced apart? 1 blank, 2 blank, 3 4 blank, 5 blank, 6 blank, 7. And then right after 7 it goes right to the 1. Obviously it just jumps as the cycle repeats. So in order to understand it, 12 equal blocks. The distance from one block to the next is a half a step. From 1 to 2 from one block to 2 block is a half a step. From 8 to block 9 is a half a step, etc. It's always a half a step, right? Then 7 of these tones or blocks have been given positions of major importance. Looking at the diagram, we only see 7 numbers. But there are still 12 tones or blocks. The empty blocks are reserved for flats and sharps. So you saw that, the 1, the blank blocks, the 2 blank blocks, 3, 4 blank box, 5 blank box, 6, 7. Whatever, you saw it. I'll show it to you again. Looks like that. 1, 2, 3. So right after the 7 is the 1. Okay. The blocks that are numbered are the tones that make up the major scale. The distance from block 1 to the first empty block is still half a step, but from 1 to the 2 is a step, another step, and then a half a step, and a step. So the various combinations of half steps are called intervals. Basically, an interval is a distance between 2 tones. The names of the intervals are then divided into 2 sets, the majors and the perfects. The majors are 2, 3, 6, and 7. The perfects are 1, 4, 5, and 8, which is the 1 right next to the 7. After the 7 becomes 8. It would be 8. So if you were to just continue counting, so the 8 is kind of like an octave. 1 would be a unison. That's why it's an 8. Such as 2 instruments playing the same note, so the 8's an octave. Okay, I already said that. Altering the intervals with flats or sharp changes them from major and perfect into minor, diminished, and augmented. See that? Then they have a diagram that shows you something that's pretty interesting. If you have the majors over here, 2, 3, 6, and 7, and the perfects 1, 3, 4, and 5 over here, you have to sharp it to make it augment, right? Sharp it to make it augment, minor, and flat it to get diminished. Or you see how that's going? So the chart kind of shows the flow. Interesting. In essence, flat a major, get a minor. Flat a minor, get diminished. Flat a perfect, get diminished. Sharp a major, get augmented. Sharp a perfect, get augmented. The entire set of major and perfect intervals is called diatonic intervals. So let's look at an easy way for memorizing interval distances by counting the amount of blocks. That's interesting. So the amount of blocks. There are 12 building blocks within the major scale. Therefore, an interval has to consist of so many blocks. We'll demonstrate first the major second. There are 3 blocks in a major second, but the distance from the 2 to the third, second to the third, is also major second. So that's a major second, and that's a major second. Figure 6 is a drawing of like what they all are. It kind of decodes what they all are. Let's look at that for a second, but it decodes what they all are, and it goes 0 steps unison, 2 steps second, a third, a minor third, a major third, a perfect fourth, which is 2 2.5 steps, a diminished fifth, which is 3 whole steps, 3.5 steps is a minor sixth, 4.5 steps, major sixth, minor seventh, 5 whole steps, and a major seventh. What does that say? 5.5 steps, I believe. Look, 5.5 steps. Right? So it's showing you those different intervals. 5.5 steps, or 10 half steps plus a half step, 11 half steps. I don't really know why they do these steps so weird, why they format and break them down. But we're going to do some random music theory here yet. Let's go, Tim. My best friend Tim's moving to Georgia. My best friend Tim's got long blonde hair. Well, he did for a long time. The whole time I knew him real close. We hung out. It's actually kind of short now, but had long blonde hair. And then eventually got a beard. And then eventually kind of keeps it shorter now. He's 6'8". He's a big guy. Played in a lot of bands with him. I look short, really short next to him. I'll tell you that. Okay. So, we're looking at this thing. We're reading through this guitar grimoire, if you guys were wondering. And I have my guitar synth also kind of plugged in. And I was doing some space sounds. These are some custom sounds I've created. This is a slow-growing panic pad. Burp there. So I'm going to go over some unison. We'll start with A so I can do unison. You know, with unison here and this, you don't really hear it. Then we're going to go to a minor second, which is just a half step. Right? Then we're going to go to a major second, which is the whole step. Hear that? Now we're moving over to a major second, which is 1.5 steps. Sorry. Is that right? A minor third, sorry, which is 1.5 steps. Did a major second just a second ago. That's 1.5 steps. And then 2 whole steps, a major third. So we did a minor third, major second. Sorry, minor second, major second. Minor third, major third. That was like this. Unison, minor second, and major second. See how this one's kind of creepy? And this one's kind of positive feeling? Here we go. This one's going to be more on the creepier side again, and it's a minor third, then a major third, and then a perfect fourth. And you hear how perfectly together they sound. Then a diminished fifth, and a perfect fifth, which is 3.5 steps. Then a hit it by accident. Minor sixth, 4 steps, and 4.5 steps, a major sixth. Now minor seventh, finally major seventh. Next thing would be octave. Okay, so you go through all those. Just looking at them in a chart form. Now look at all the individual components, and you kind of see, and you can kind of, with this lets you break them down, and we can clearly see here the individual intervals, and it's this chart, and you can listen to them and hear their differences. You can see that there are distances between each interval, which go like whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step. Pretty simple for the major, right? In studying the altered intervals, many of them will look different on paper or in theory, but sonically they are all the same. Notice that the numbers to the right of each set above are different from the upper and lower, and yet each has the same number of blocks. So for instance, a flat third or a sharp second, or a sharp fourth or a flat fifth. The sharp second or the flat third, both of them is 1.5 steps. You know, see what I'm saying? So if you look at them here on this drawing here, can't see everything that's going on here, but you can kind of see those are the same distances, each one of them, even though they have different labels. And that's all they're getting at is you can call this 2 things, you can call them by 2 different names, and it doesn't change what it's not the same thing you can call by 2 different names, it doesn't change what it is. So they kind of get into some crazy math here, but let's just talk about it kind of quickly. A scale is a sequence of tones comprised of varying intervals. Modes can be described as scale inversion. The major scale has 7 modes because it has 7 tones. The first mode of any modal system is the scale itself. For many scales, the individual modes have been given names because they are used as scales themselves. The modes of the major scale would be like, what do they call that? What would the mode be? It would be like if you start, if normally your scale is like this. Oh, I gotta go to a different instrument. Let me go to this space banjo I got in here. Electric silk piano. No, that's not it. Space dulcimer. Astronaut banjo. So like this. So a step, a half step, a step, a step, a step. So look at that, right? Oh, it goes like this, right? My bad. So you go like that. That would be starting with B. Flat in this case, right? But you see what I'm saying? So if you start there, that is major. But if you wanted to do Ionian, which starts on the, I believe it's the second mode. I think that's right, yeah. But we'll tell you all the modes in a second, but I think it goes like this. The first is the major, the second is Ionian, the third is Dorian, the third is Phrygian. The second is Ionian, the third is Dorian, the fourth is Phrygian, the Lydian is fifth, the Mixolydian is sixth, let's see, we'll have to look at this closer, but what we get is if you start in the second tone, like this, that changes the mode. That changes the mode. It's the same scale, but it changes the mode. Now, oh yeah, so the first, when you start here, that's Ionian. The second, that is Dorian, Phrygian. It's all where you start. So Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and the Locrian are all based on where you start in the scale, meaning that it's all really truly the major scale, and it's just kind of posturing and how you're playing it and where you're coming into it and how you're starting. Like where's this phrase starting on the beginning of each bar? Oh, it's starting on the second. It's going back to the second, most commonly going back to the second. We would call it Dorian scale. Well, it's just getting more pretentious, but it's used to understand it. It's just like a language. It's like if I wanted to say take a right on this street, and you're like, what street? Second street down. What's it called? Well, it's not called second, it's called Dorian, so I'll just tell you it's called Dorian. That's all it is. It's a placement, it's a map. These are maps for others to recreate the music. And these are maps for you to understand what works and what you would change to make it different. It doesn't really tell you what you can and can't do. Music doesn't really ever do that. That's the cool thing about it, is you have to push it around. Something you might do with one instrument, you can You can't do with another instrument. Like boing kind of sound might not sound good on a bass. I don't know how to describe it, but a part you play on the guitar or bass might only work once it's played on the banjo. That part has to be on the banjo. You know, simple as that. Just what it is. It's not a bass part. So, yeah. Astronaut banjo. We got a rhythmic space flute. Got the space dulcimer, like this one. Do you know your mom's calling you from space? She is saying there is cookies in heaven for your face. If you know what I mean, your mom just wants to see your smiling boy face inside your school. So, scales and modes. Did I break it down and make it easy feeling? Everything's all tangled up in here. I got this thing plugged into the guitar amp for tuning it, and plugged into the synth, and they go two different directions. So, what's a chord? We've covered some ground here for 27 minutes of rambling. What's a chord? We figured out what a scale and a mode is. It's a set of those notes, and the mode is where you're starting in general, and or where you're coming from with it. So what's a chord? A chord is defined as 3 or more tones played at the same time. An interval is a 2-tone chord, but like a power chord or something. It's a basic formula used. It can be used for all kinds of chords, but it's not a full true chord. A major chord would be like a 1, 3, a 5. A major 7th is like a 1, 3, a 5, and a 7. See how that's working? There's nothing really fancy going on there. Hey there, little girl.
I told Mom.
You told Mom?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what are those big fancy chords like 9ths and 11ths and 13ths? Well, they're using octaves of the major scale. They're extending the scale. In the chord is getting more notes, or sometimes as part of them, part of the notes are working together. Like maybe you're leaving out the 3rd or something in this chord, but you're going all the way up to the 13th. And that could happen. Chord naming. There are certain guidelines to help communicate and understand what chords are. So there's a chord naming chart. A very simple way is to think about it is like this. A first and a flat 3rd and a 5th is a minor. A first, a 3rd, and a sharp 5th is an augmented. A first, a flat 3rd, and a flat 5th is a diminished. A 1, 3, 5, and 7 together is a delta. A dominant is a 1, 3, 5, and a flat 7. Oh, a little fluffy goose down. floats. A half diminished is a 1, 3 flat, 5 flat, and a 7th flat. And a diminished 7th would be a double E flat 7th. One 3 flat and a 5 flat, double E flat 7th. And you can see that in this chart here. So it's just kind of showing you those like the general terms to like naming. Kind of the only real rules, then you add things into those general names. That's all we're gonna go through on this today. We're gonna get into it some more though. Sorry about the angle change there. We're gonna get into it some more. My daughter over here. That's awesome. What we're gonna do is we're gonna hey there. Yeah. Okay, come on out of here.
Oh, I get him.
Get it. There you go. My daughter is not even 3 years old. She's having fun. Yeah.
Yes.
On the bed. Play on the bed. She's having fun. Well, anyways. We'll read more of this stuff. Polychords, slash chords, substitutions, all kinds of stuff. We're going to read about it so that we can get into progressions, circles of fifths, and kind of try to talk about how chords relate. And basically, we're just going to get into it and to experiment in trying to understand some of these basics of songwriting. It's going to be a fun experiment we'll do together. A boringly fun experiment. And we'll get through it part by part. That's the IdiOtBlog 338. I guess I'll be back later with a more traditional blog. Talk to you guys then.